for you for today, the 2nd of July, 2026. It's from Norman Cousins. He was pretty well known in the 20th century. I think he was the editor of, I forgot the name of the magazine now, but it was quite well-known magazine. Not one that I'm familiar with, but I know about it. Anyway, but he was quite well known. I think he's the guy who cured himself of a couple of diseases by using laughter. And this bodes well because he's laughing yourself well. Optimism supplies the basic energy of civilization. Optimism doesn't wait for facts. It deals with prospects. Pessimism is a waste of time. And that was Norman Cousins. Oh, yeah, it says here, he edited the Saturday Review for more than 30 years and was a great fan of laughter. After he was diagnosed with a life-threatening form of arthritis, he checked himself out of the hospital and into a hotel. He hired a nurse to take a sample of his blood, and then he laughed. He laughed every day over and over while watching funny films and listening to funny albums. He wanted only funny people in his room. He and his nurse conducted an experiment and discovered that after 5 minutes of genuine belly laughter, his immune system cells increased in number and activity by 50%. Cousins turned pessimism into gold-plated optimism. He lived and laughed for 26 more years. Oh, and if you want to, an affirmation for the day instead of the one that's got to come later, I recommend this one, to be honest with you. Today, I will laugh at my aches and pains, and I will begin to vanish any pessimism from my being. How about that? And it's a bit too late to put it in there, but I'll put it in tomorrow. How's that? Today, I will laugh at my aches and pains, and I will begin to banish any pessimism from my being. So, that is the first quote. The second thing is, I have a major dilemma here. My dilemma is this. I know that some people who watch these readings don't ascribe to what Science of Mind teaches. They ascribe to some of it, which will be the optimism part that Norman Cousins is talking about and how prayer can move things. But they don't necessarily agree to the idea that God is all there is and everything exists within God. Some people are still standard people who believe in, that God is separate from its creation. God created everything, yeah, but God's separate. So, for instance, Catholics, any kind of Christian, really, Muslims, and others who believe in just the fact that there is monotheism, one God, but that God is separate from its creation. In Science of Mind teaching, and basically any New Thought teaching, which would include unity, divine science, and the Japanese one, whose name I forget. And also most mystics who've ever lived would believe that God is all there is and everything exists within God. So my dilemma is this, that these readings are directed primarily at people in the Science of Mind community. And I know that some of my listeners are outside of that. So I'm seriously contemplating doing 2 different readings every day. One standard from the daily guides in the Science of Mind magazine, and then maybe another shorter one, which is some uplifting stuff. Maybe from another copy of Science of Mind magazine that's got a different message. So that, my friends, is my dilemma. But here is today's reading, and I just encourage you, whatever your belief is or non-belief in God, the all, spirit, everything, then just bear with this and see how that fits into your belief system. Because something brought this whole universe into existence. Somehow it came into existence. And I don't think it just happened on its own. So we'll see how that goes. To me, that doesn't make sense, but maybe to some of you it doesn't, and that's okay. So this is called One Self-Existent Cause. The first quote is from Spinoza, Baruch Spinoza. He says, "By God, I understand a being absolutely infinite. That is a substance consisting of infinite attributes, each of which expresses eternal and infinite essence. So in other words, God is all there is, always has been, always will be. And Ernest Holmes puts it a bit differently in what we believe. He says, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. And you can put within that belief system anything you choose, such as believing that God is a person, but is beyond everything. God is a principle, which is what Ernest Holmes believed, or anywhere in between. And this is our writer for this month, Reverend John Waterhouse. In the second half of his opening statement, Ernest Holmes declares that God is indestructible and absolute. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. He emphasizes unity and permanence and affirms that reality is ultimately singular, not divided into competing dualistic forces of good and evil, right and wrong, darkness and light. This one reality cannot be diminished, harmed, or opposed. It simply is. By calling it, capitalized, absolute, Ernest Holmes affirms that nothing exists outside of or separate from this divine source. And this belief system is actually called panentheism, which says God is all there is and everything exists within God, but God is more than what you see in it. God is more than the universe. God is more than the multiverse, omniverse, that God is way beyond that. Self-Existent Cause reveals a core metaphysical concept. God does not originate from anything else, nor does it rely on anything outside of itself to exist. Spirit, he means God here, is first cause, the creative principle from which all life, all form, all time, and all experience arise. Everything that exists is an expression of this cause, capital C, rather than something created apart from it. Taken together, the quote expresses a worldview in which God is the unequivocal source of life itself, ever-present, self-sustaining, and expressing through all creation, including human consciousness. All this transcends the reality of our physical existence and lifts us towards something greater and more powerful than anything we have known before. He says, I invite you to close your eyes and repeat Ernest Holmes' words and feel the energy of those words and what they evoke in you. And he says you might be surprised. And those words again are, we believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. So, as I said, the readings are primarily directed at people who are members of a New Thought community or are interested in learning more about a New Thought community. But as I said, I know this isn't for everybody, so I'm going to look and see if I can come up with some, well, different material that is not so focused in its nature. So we'll see how that goes. And then I will let people know which reading it is that they're potentially listening to, so you don't listen to one that you don't need to. I strongly recommend that you simply use Ernest Holmes' affirmation. Norman Cousins' affirmation today. Today, I will laugh at my aches and pains, and I will begin to banish any pessimism from my being. And honestly, I don't think anybody could argue with that, right? I take a positive attitude this day and banish all my aches and pains, or any variation on that you think. Personally, I think that's a really, really good way to go about things. My colleague, Reverend Lisa, is coming up with different readings than I am every day. She's reading on, what is she reading on? I'll look it up. But she always has an interesting point of view. So, 9:15 Central Time, Christian Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. You can see me on the following, and I'll tell you what they are. There's my own personal Facebook page, David Dewhurst. There's Prosperity Living. That's our company Facebook page. There's Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page. There's Tumblr. There's Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And you can usually find my readings on all of those. So there you are. So wishing every single one of you, knowing the highest and best for each one today, I release this word, knowing that it is true and it is done. And I claim it's true and done. And I let it go, call it done. And so it is. So until tomorrow, my friends, namaste.